I was telling you about the EPA. You know what the EPA is about to do? It's really cool. Those of you who believe in clean air and clean water, of course, the rest of us don't, but those of you who think the EPA does. This is from the Hill newspaper. Julian Haddam. Obama's looking forward to a host of new environmental regulations that go far beyond the president's plans to issue new standards for greenhouse gas emissions from new and existing power plants, which reminds me of something. Folks, since September of last year, I and my little foundation with my wonderful lawyers, Landmark Legal Foundation, has been litigating against the Environmental Protection Agency to get the information related to regulations that they have been preparing to release. And we continue to go to federal court. We continue to explain that the EPA is dragging its feet. They continue to ask for extensions. They threw up one argument, privacy right argument, that they later withdrew because it was so absurd. They gave us 3,000 pages of information, most of it redacted, and much of it including information we already had. We're at square one. We can't get the court to move. I mean, I'm telling you, you know, when you talk about, hey, you are the government. No, we're not. Now, we are experienced litigators taking on the federal government. The federal government's dragging its feet. It's using the court in some respects to slow down the process. Our motions are all but ignored. And here it is, what is it, 9 months, going on 10 months? Now pushing out regulations as fast as they possibly can. And we're litigating for information that should have been provided to us on day one, early on in the process, so we can challenge some of these regulations. We were timely. We have standing. We set the stage, legally speaking. So when people say, well, this is the government. I mean, it's yours. It represents you. If you don't love the government, you must hate your country. This is what I'm talking about. Oh, I just love it when they won't give us information they're required to give us. I just love it when the courts won't act in a timely manner. It's just great. I don't love it at all. I despise it. What do you think the founders would say? So anyway, the new regulations previewed in the administration's spring regulatory roadmap released this week. Now, did you hear that? Spring regulatory roadmap released this week. Is this not the summertime? You see, they're late releasing their spring regulatory roadmap because this is what Obama does. He thumbs his nose at the law. He thumbs his nose at the executive branch's own regulations. This was supposed to be out months ago, and they didn't put it out because they're in a hurry to get this stuff done. So you have as little knowledge as possible, and people like me and my foundation, we have as little knowledge as possible. So we have to act quickly, and we go to court, and the court acts slowly. And if the judge is upset with me, I'm more than happy to come in and open court and have a discussion with him, because this is ridiculous. But let me continue. This September, the EPA plans to propose rules for greenhouse gas emissions from new power plants, and next June will issue draft rules for existing facilities. Those dates match up with the timeline Obama has given for the new regulations, which supporters have cheered as a major step in confronting climate change. The administration first unveiled a draft rule for new power plants in 2012, but delayed finalizing the proposal after more than 2 million comments were submitted by the public. Now, that's not why they delayed. You want to know why they delayed for a year? Because my lawyers at Landmark Legal Foundation filed complaints explaining that the EPA hadn't followed the administrative rules that they're required to follow. So you know what the EPA did? They had to pull back, start all over again, and here we go. It's another year. That's why that happened, and the Hill newspaper obviously doesn't read all these filings. The EPA, you ready for this, is also looking to regulate the pollution discharges from military ships, including drainage from onboard photography labs, deck runoff from rain and seawater, and foam used to fight fires on board. How many times have I said today's green is the old red, meaning this communist fascist mentality that exists at the EPA. The EPA, folks, is where the action is. The EPA is the agency that is now being used and will continue to be used to destroy our economy, to destroy our military, to go after our gun rights. Remember, they were thinking about, hey, lead and bullets. We got to outlaw lead. This is the agency through which the Soviet mentality exists. Do you think the Soviet Union's dead? It's not. It's in the EPA. Don't you want clean air and clean water? No. Now stick it. The agency expects to propose that rule this month and finalize it next June. Other rules planned to be proposed in upcoming months would regulate new refrigerants used in automobile air conditioners. Remember they did that already? Update, but it's not enough. It's never enough. Remember that. First chapter of Meritopia. Update 29-year-old standards for grain elevators and renew an effort to change disposals of pharmaceuticals that are considered hazardous waste. Don't we already have those orange cans or red cans with the skull and bones and others? Emergency, 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 hazardous waste, hazardous. Anyway, apparently that's not enough. Let's see, what else are they going to do to us? So you see, folks, we sit around and wait for what the Supreme Court's going to do to us. We sit around and wait for what the EPA is going to do to us, the IRS. But don't worry, Obama said the government is us. Well, this isn't us, is it? It's them. And they are doing this to us. Now, do you really think these people in these departments and agencies, do you really think these politicians in Congress and the White House, do you really think these judges up and down the federal judiciary, do you really think they're going to constrain themselves? Do you really think they're going to start reversing course? They created this. They're doing it. Well, we just need another election. That'll fix it. Really? Ready for this one? At times of peak demand for electricity, do you want your refrigerator to run at the discretion of the power company? The U.S. Environmental Protection Agency has revised its Energy Star energy efficiency requirements for residential refrigerators. Anyone who has a refrigerator, please raise your hand. Oh, all of you. And it is encouraging the inclusion of a connected feature that will respond to utility signals to curb their energy consumption. The EPA announced the new requirement on June 27. Included is the optional smart grid connection for customers to electronically connect the refrigerator or freezer with a utility provider. The updated requirements raise the bar for energy efficiency in these products and, for the first time, encourage manufacturers of Energy Star appliances to include optional connected features, according to the EPA release. Optional today won't be optional tomorrow. It'll be required. That's right. We're going to have our smart registers outside so the utility companies at the government's direction can control the air conditioning during global warming and the heating during global cooling, a.k.a. during various changes in climate. And your refrigerator. Yeah, we're a little short on energy now, given that, skyrocketing energy costs, particularly electricity, due to our war on coal. So now what do we have to do? See, Obama doesn't understand this. Our objective is not to be like the North Korean economy. See, they don't have any widespread pollution in North Korea. I mean, unless you consider dead human beings and gulags. That's problematic. But because the people don't eat, the people don't travel, the people don't have real homes, they don't have air conditioning, they don't have heating, they don't have automobiles, what do we have in North Korea? It's the environmentalists' Shangri-La. There's his paradise. There's his utopia. Look at it. There it is. Yes, everybody's equal. Well, except for the masterminds. But most of the people are equal. They're equal in their hard lives. They're equal in their misery. They're equal in their near-death experience. They're equal. You've got radical egalitarianism. Isn't it great? They got rid of the rich. I mean, not the ruling elites. They're powerful, they're rich. But, the upper classes. We can't have classes. That's not fair. And I'll bet that disgusting little midget who's in that inbred who's in charge of North Korea, I'll bet. And by the way, the Midget Association of America, don't write me, please. Okay, no harm meant. But anyway, that disgusting you-know-what, I'll bet he says to his people all the time, we are the government. Yes, the government is us. I think that's Obama's words. The government is us. We live for the government. The government's us. We serve the government, just as our great leader serves us. We rely on the government. You hear the liberals call our show, my show. What would you do without that? You wouldn't have a pension. You wouldn't have, clean water. You wouldn't have clean air. That's right. You see, folks, all of humanity prior to the New Deal didn't know how to conduct itself. America, pre-founding, founding, and for 150 or so years later. That's right. Nobody knew how to live, to eat, to clothe themselves, to put a roof over their head. They didn't know, don't drink brown water. Stuff like that. Don't eat yellow snow. No, they never knew that. Now, these were the men who created the greatest nation on the face of the earth. The greatest founding document ever, the Declaration. The greatest governing document ever, the Constitution. These were the greatest minds ever assembled anywhere at any time. And yet, we're to dismiss them. The New Deal, the bureaucracy, the courts, redistribution, that's the way forward.